Peace be upon you, 8th graders. السلام عليكم طلابنا الأعزاء بالصف الثامن الدرس 13. Today you are going to learn about a new type of essays, which is problem solution essays. Now earlier or previously you learned about cause and effect essay, and all these essays are under the heading of expository essay. So today we have very important type of essays that you will learn. What about problem solution essays? First of all, problem solution essays are a common essay type. So in the final exam, you may be asked to write one of these essays, definitely cause and effect or problem solution essay. In this type of essays, we need to write about a problem. We need to write about a problem, to state a problem, to raise a problem, to consider a problem or more than one problem about one topic, and to try to find solutions in the second paragraph. So first we have an introduction, and after that we can write all the problems in one paragraph, and after that we can write about solutions, and this type is called the block, as I told you earlier when we talked about cause and effect essay. And finally we can write our conclusion. Now let's talk about the structure of this type. Structure. So there are, as I told you earlier, when we talked about cause and effect essays, we have two main ways to structure a problem solution essay. Two main ways, the same as when we talked about cause and effect essay. These are similar. So these are similar to the way to structure cause and effect essay, namely using a block or chain. Block or chain, very important, block or chain. And I prefer to use the block pattern, and I'll give you an example essay about this structure. I mean the block structure, because all the problems are listed together and all solutions are listed in another paragraph or a separate paragraph. So for the block structure, all of the problems are listed first, and for all solutions and all of the solutions are listed afterwards in another paragraph. So this is the structure of problem and solution essay, as you can see here in the diagram below. So we can have a look on this diagram. Block, we have an introduction, as you can see, and in this introduction we can include a situation. In this introduction we can include a situation, because in longer essays, I mean for example 500 words essay, 1000 word essay, we need a separate paragraph to include our situation. But here we can include the situation in the introductory paragraph. After that we have a paragraph to list all the problems together, and I'll talk in details about this process when we talk about a problem, and after that we try to talk about its effect. And we need another transition sentence or paragraph in order to write about solutions, to write about all solutions together. And finally, in the conclusion or in the conclusion paragraph, the final paragraph, we can include evaluation. So in the first paragraph, we can include the situation, and that means to talk about the problem, to consider the problem, okay? And in longer paragraphs or in longer essays, we can use a separate paragraph for this reason. The same will be applied when we talk about evaluation. So in long paragraphs, in long essays, when we write, for example, 1000 word essay, in this case we can write about evaluation in a separate paragraph, but here we can only write about the situation or the evaluation only in the introductory paragraph or the conclusion paragraph. And in the second and third paragraph, we list all the problems and all solutions in two separate paragraphs. Now, what about the other structure of problem solution essay? Here we can talk about a chain structure, chain. And in this case, we will talk about one problem and one solution to this problem, another problem. So you will state a problem and solution, and so on in one paragraph. So this is the structure as we have seen in the diagram above. Now let me talk in more details about writing a problems paragraph. And after that, I'll talk about solutions paragraph. So writing about the problems, you only need 2 or 3 problems. So dear students, when you want to start writing your essay in the final exam, you can think about 2 or 3 maximum problems to write about. Why? Because you are very short of time and you will explain these problems. So when you brainstorm your ideas, so the first step to write our essay is to brainstorm our ideas. What does that mean? It means to draft our ideas, okay? To consider these problems, to draft them. And when you develop your essay, in this case, you choose the best ideas that you can write about and delete the other that you are not ready to write about because you are very short of time, as I have just told you. So when we brainstorm our ideas, when we draft our ideas to choose the best that we are able to write about them, of course, for the problem solution essay, here we think about 3 things, 3 important steps. The first one will be what the problem. So first of all, dear students, state the problem. State the problem. Consider a problem. Put a problem. Think about a problem. Here, we can also give an example after that. So when we write about the first problem, we can directly write about, I'll give an example. We can directly give an example as you will see in the illustration below. And finally, we can talk about the effect of this problem. Effect. So here, we state the problem, we give an example, and finally, we talk about the effect of this problem. And here is an example of the brainstorming for the problem, a problems paragraph about the internet. So here, the paragraph that I am going to write is about the internet, So first of all, here we are talking about 2 problems, as you can see. So I told you, try to talk or write about only 2 or 3 problems. Here we have 2 problems relating to the internet. So the topic of our essay today is the internet. And in the next lesson, I'll give you an example essay about the internet. So we will try to use these ideas that we are brainstorming now in order to write or develop our essay later. So pay attention, dear students. Now, problem 1, children can access potentially dangerous sites. So now, dear students, we are talking about a problem relating to the use or the bad use of the internet. So the first problem I think about is children can access potentially dangerous sites. So children can access, it means that they can view dangerous sites. And here I can give an example about these sites. For example, violence sites, or pornography sites, for example, or those entertainment programs about wrestling. So we have many examples, and here we are talking about violence sites. Now, a result. What is the result? So when you state your problem, when you write about the first problem, and you give your example, directly try to think about the effect, about the result of this problem. And here we can say that these sites affect thought and development of our children in a negative way for both children and society. Now we think about another problem relating to the internet, and here we can talk about the growth of online fraud. Fraud means deceiving others in order to steal money, for example, to get information, sensitive information, important information. So fraud means deceiving others, okay? And hacking, when you try to break into the computer's systems in order to get information. So here we are talking about another problem relating to the internet. And here we give an example. For example, evident from the continuous news stories. So we can get a story, a continuous story that happen every day and write about. And the result will be criminals get sensitive information. And here we mean techno criminals who are invisible, and who try to break in all the systems of computers in order to get information or to reach the bank accounts in order to steal money or to damage our devices, so with viruses. So those are called techno-criminals, and in this case they can get sensitive information. Now here they are illustrated in the paragraph with the introductory expressions. Pay attention, dear students. Here, after we have done this brainstorming about the first paragraph, namely the problems paragraph, and we gave some of the results, and here we can learn by heart about some introductory expressions, as you can see here, and I'll shade them in blue and yellow for you. So introductory expressions help you to transit from one idea to another, from one paragraph to another, from one sentence to another. So pay attention and try to learn them by heart. Now, one of the first problems of the internet is, here is the topic sentence. So one of the first problems of the, and here I state my topic, as you can see. Again, whenever you want to write a problem solution essay, you can use this sentence, this underlined sentence in the red color. So when the first problem, one of the first problems of the internet, and it is not necessary to write about internet. This is our topic today. So you cannot change this word in black according or depending on the question in your exam. So one of the first problems of the internet is, so this is very important introductory expression when you want to talk about the problems, is the ease. One of the first problems of the internet is the ease, the facilities that our children can access potentially dangerous sites. When I talk about potentially dangerous sites, I want to talk about those dangerous sites that may make our children receive bad information, for example, or anything that may affect them negatively. Here, I give an example as I told you above. For example, violence sites. Violence sites are easily accessible to them because they can register, they can subscribe with a site and claim to be an adult. So as you know, dear students, in most sites on the internet, they want to make sure that you are 18 years old. But here in this case, it's not necessary to be 18 years old. You may be under 18 years old, and it is not a problem. So violence sites are easily accessible to them because they can register with a site and they claim to be an adult. So they are under the age of 18, and yet they can use these sites and view them. Now there is no doubt, here I want in the blue color to talk about the results. So there is no doubt that this affects their thoughts and development. We are only developing our brainstorming above, as you can see. So there is no doubt that this affects their thoughts and development, which in turn will have negative results, negative effects, negative impact on the children and their society. Now we also talk about another problem, give an example and an effect. As you can see, there are 3 different colors for you in order to make things easy for you. So another major problem, pay attention when you want to talk or state another problem or to put another problem or to think about another problem. Another major problem is what? And here you write about your problem. The growth of online fraud and hacking. The growth of online fraud and hacking. These days, here I am trying to give a story about that happen every day. For example, these days there are continuous news stories about government and company websites that have been hacked. Okay, have been hacked, resulting. Here we are talking about the result. Pay attention how you can state your result. Resulting in sensitive information, essential information, important information falling into the hands of techno-criminals, those who are trying to damage our systems, our computer systems. So in this paragraph, we stated 2 problems. We have written about 2 problems. We gave examples, and finally, we have written about the effects of these 2 problems. This is called the problems paragraph. Okay? Now, writing about solutions. So we have 2 paragraphs. I am not talking about the introductory paragraph or the conclusion. Here I am talking about the body, about the crux of your problem solution essay. And in this case, we are writing 2 separate paragraphs. The first one is about the problems, and the second one will be about solutions. And here I am writing about solutions. When you come to brainstorming your solutions, think of key actors. Pay attention. Key actors, very important. Always, dear students, in grade 8, when you want to state solutions, think about those actors who are involved in this situation. And the first will be governments, okay, governments. We also can think about, for example, the role of parents in this case, in the case of our essay today. We can talk about companies, for example, about film producers. So those are the people involved in this situation. So when you come to brainstorming, think about the key actors who are involved. It is usually governments. So I'll shade it in yellow for you because it's very important. Always try to think about governments because they may give us solutions. Individuals, according or depending on the situation. In this case, we can talk about the role of parents in some way or another. Now, there may be another group specifically related to the topic. For example, in this case, parents. So parents have a great role to prevent their children from reaching or getting or accessing these sites. Film producers and companies are also responsible. So they are all important actors that play a role in giving us solutions to this problem. If you are discussing crime, it could be police, for example. Now, let's read this illustration about a solutions paragraph. So first of all, solution 1, governments, as I told you above. Solution 2, parents. Pay attention, parents, how you brainstorm your problem solution essay. Solution 3, companies. So we have 3 actors involved in this situation. Governments, here, adequate legislation and controls for young people is an idea. Adequate, enough legislation or law. So we need new laws and controls for young people, for youngsters or for teenagers in order to prevent them get access to these sites. Now, more complex websites access criteria. How? So you want to say how. You want to write about how. In this case, we can talk about more complex website access criteria. Now, solution 2, parents. Here, parents should monitor, should observe, okay? Should observe, monitor or observe, or watch carefully for a long time their children behavior, and they try to restrict access to these bad sites. And here how, you ask yourself how, you ask yourselves how. We can use a computer program. Now, the third solution will be companies. And the idea will be to improve computer security systems, okay, to improve computer security systems. And how? By review current systems or those systems which are not powerful in place. Here is a paragraph. Again, note how it follows the plan and the clear topic sentence. Pay attention to the topic sentence. It's very important to use when you want to write about solutions in any essay that you will be write about in your exam. It is important, very important introductory expression, and it is shaded in yellow for you because it's very important to learn it by heart when you want your student to write about solution essays. It's important that action is taken to combat, to prevent, to stop these problems. Again, it's important that action is taken to combat. What does that mean? To stop, to prevent these problems. And here we can talk about the important role, about the responsible role of governments, parents, and companies, as you will see. And we want to tell the reader how can they play that important role. For example, let's talk about governments. Should. And should is a modal verb and is underlined for you. Why? Because we use should in order to express advisability. So governments should ensure that adequate legislation. What does that mean? Enough legislation, enough laws, and controls are in place that will prevent young people, youngsters, teenagers from accessing, from getting dangerous sites, from viewing dangerous sites, such as, here we are talking about how, writing about how can this happen, such as requiring more than simply confirming that you are an adult to view a site. Now, parents also have part to play. Parents also have a part to play. They need to pay attention to these modal verbs. They need to closely monitor, closely watch, carefully observe the activities of their children and restrict their access to certain sites, which can now be done through various computer programs. So how? By various computer programs that help them to watch their children's it's an obligation. It's not an advisability now, it's an obligation for this company also to improve their computer security systems to make fraud and hacking, to prevent fraud and hacking, and to make it much difficult for these techno-criminals to break into. By undertaking thorough reviews, careful examination of their current systems for weaknesses, for any problem. So in this case, we have finished brainstorming 2 main paragraphs about the problems and solution, and in the next lesson I write an essay, and I mean a problem solution essay, depending on this brainstorming and depending on the ideas that we developed today. So thank you and goodbye for now, dear students.